For WeAreSC.com, I'm Angel Viscarra, joined by Darrell, Rideaux, and Garry Paskwietz here on Brian Kennedy Howard Jones Field after the Trojans' second scrimmage of fall camp. Garry, actually officially the final day of fall camp for these Trojans. And guys, we were all a little surprised when that third horn went off and practice ended pretty quickly today. Garry, how did you feel about just the way practice ran today?
Well, I think unfulfilled. If you were hoping for that final stamp on the scrimmage to end camp and to get the quarterback battle decided and to really see what happens with this, they eliminated the last part of practice with the 2-minute drill because they were running out of bodies. We only saw one touchdown drive today, so the lack of explosive plays that we saw in the scrimmage last week. So Clay Helton says he wants to go in and watch the tape and really evaluate it. I understand what he's saying with that remark.
Absolutely. And Darrell, you mentioned the past couple of days, we feel like we've kind of gearing back for a big scrimmage today. What did you feel energy-wise from the practice?
Well, as a former player, having played here in the early 2000s, what you're accustomed to is the build-up of camp. The days leading up to it almost feels like you're taking a crash course, and your ability to be evaluated on the football field oftentimes is graded during the scrimmages. And so when Clay Helton made the comment that over the next the few days leading up to camp, to this particular scrimmage, that he was going to be dialing back, I immediately thought, okay, well, let me reserve my emotions and thoughts for this scrimmage, because obviously the expectations, the opportunity for guys to compete at a high level and showcase their skill set would likely take place today. But I'm almost wondering if the attrition on the field, the lack of healthy bodies, might have impacted these quarterbacks, their ability to really demonstrate how much they've advanced and progressed throughout camp.
All right, and these quarterbacks obviously being the most important thing people were looking for coming into today. We saw really not too much exposure of these quarterbacks. Jack Sears leading the only touchdown drive today. He only had 3 passing attempts. How do you feel about the way the quarterbacks were managed today?
Well, Jack Sears completed 2 of those 3 to Devin Williams and scored a touchdown on that. I thought Clay Helton, the point that he made in this post-practice press conference, in that he took from this the fact that they got rid of the ball. Last week in the scrimmage, they took 9 sacks. This week was much better in that regard. So if that was one focus point that Coach Helton is going to take away from it, that's great. That's a good one. But I think you're going to look to that next mock game to really say that's going to be the one that finalizes this quarterback competition. Because from today, I don't think you take anything away from it that says one guy won the day and one guy won the job.
You and the quarterbacks?
And Angel, again, if you're assessing and evaluating and going back to some of the previous comments that Clay Helton made, meaning that he thought that perhaps after this particular scrimmage that this would be one of those games or the line of demarcation where the quarterbacks would start to separate in the room and he could start narrowing down. Not quite sure he can do that, as you indicated, Garry, but what I am seeing is building blocks. These quarterbacks are taking their opportunities and really trying to improvise within the confines of their time on the field. And when your time is allocated amongst 3 quarterbacks, each quarterback is coming in and having to reset the tone within the huddle, because the centers are hearing 3 different voices and body language. So what I find to be most important going into the final scrimmage is which quarterback is going to step up and become that alpha and start to command the presence of those around him. And what we'll normally start to see is cream rising to the top. So again, if we are leaning towards this last scrimmage, I think that the practices to come are going to be equally as important.
All right, Darrell, let's stick with you. What did you think about the defense today, and have they been impressive to you so far?
I still think that this defense is running on advanced courses. The way that they're playing and picking up and progressing from last year, what I love and I like that I saw most was offense may have taken their shots last week and the previous scrimmage, but the way that this team rebounded and responded defensively, what I'm noticing is consistency, whether it's first string, second, or third string. The rotation of those players, they're all seeming to have the same type of impact and results regardless of what quarterback is in. And that's usually the mark of well-disciplined and coached guys on that side of the ball. That bodes extremely well breaking in new quarterbacks early in the season.
All right, Garry, and we'll wrap up by asking about a guy that Helton mentioned in his post-practice presser. Probably the most impressive guy, definitely offensively today, Devin Williams. He brings the frame. What have you seen from him?
Yes, he does bring the frame. That stands out to you. Darrell and I were talking a young freshman receiver that you saw when you were here doing. That's when Mike Williams walked on the field. Frame-wise, that's what you see from Devin Williams. I'm not saying he's Mike Williams just yet, but that's what he looks like. And if he can put it together, and if he can really master what Clay Helton said, learn that playbook and get in into that. You saw it with 2 catches in a row that he made out here. The frame is there. Boy, it will be really enticing to see how he goes along.
All right, so that does it from the second scrimmage of fall camp. On a day where we honestly thought we'd be getting a lot of questions answered, maybe a bit more question marks going forward. 2 weeks away from the season opener at the Coliseum against UNLV, and the Trojans are getting closer to naming that starting quarterback, and we're excited about how it's all going to come together. So from Bryant Kennedy, Howard Jones Field, Angel Viscarra, Garry Paskwietz, and Darrell Rideaux, and you're watching WeAreSC.